Hey, I was thinking about how unfortunate and depressed my sister is. I have the ideal strategy. What sort of arrangement? Just keep an eye out. Mary changed into an elegant bridal gown, the type you would wear to a nuptial. She approached the microphone. Would anyone like to take my sister off our hands? She boldly asked the visitors as she turned to face them after receiving it. She is becoming older and not very informed, isn't she? Mary did not understand how impolite her acts were until after she said this, and she glanced at her sister with a smug, cruel smirk. The place suddenly took on a different vibe. Whispers began, and a few visitors sent chilly stares toward Mary. Mary snatched up the microphone once more without realizing. "Sister, you really need to market yourself more. Come on, this place is full with attractive physicians. Do you really not realize what you've done?" Something significant and unexpected happened in the following instant. I'm a straightforward 31-year-old working lady named Amy Schumer. I don't have any distinguishing characteristics, save from one peculiarity. I went toward a legal profession after middle school and eventually became an attorney. Mary, my sister, is 3 years younger than I am. Because of her charm and sociability, our family has always given her particular treatment. I have a simple, unremarkable look and mediocre style. Since I'm not very charming, my family and relatives have never really valued me. I was coldly treated at home and received very little affection. Mary had an innate charisma that made me feel inadequate, and our parents loved her unconditionally. I got nothing but angry glances. I put my everything into my work. I made a lot of effort in my studies to gain excellent marks and to win my family's approval, but I was never able to match Mary's brilliance. I eventually gave up on attempting to gain their affection and chose to direct my attention elsewhere. I stopped trying to be adored and focused all of my energy on my studies. I made a self-promise to use my expertise to determine my value. I felt more confident when I studied hard and got decent marks. I hoped that one day my parents would compliment me on my academic achievements. Seizing this slender hope, I studied late into the night every night. Even though I consistently performed higher on tests than other kids and was at the top of my class throughout middle school, my parents never gave me any recognition. Rather, they were critical of my grades a lot. Being the best isn't enough. You also need to receive almost flawless grades in each subject. Yes, science isn't flawless, even if you get a 98%. However, this last exam was really challenging. I would try to provide justifications. My mother would respond sternly, "Again, you end up with such results because you don't put in enough effort." She spoke in an icy tone. "Are you planning to show off those subpar grades?" I was limited to apologizing. "Yes, I apologize," I whispered. My performance was never up to my parents' standards of perfection, no matter how much time and effort I put into it. They never gave me credit for my work. If I received a score lower than 101%, they would just reprimand me. However, my sister Mary's ostensibly harmless remarks caused me more pain than the indifference of my parents. "Oh, sister, you aren't receiving lectures from me again." Without permission, she would enter my room and smile at my report card. Decent grades and constant criticism. That is depressing. I'm commended for just barely passing. "Were you here only to say that?" Exasperated, I asked. Pretending to be alarmed, Mary remarked, "I was worried maybe you were down again, but I didn't expect such a cold reception." I tried to remain cool and said, "If you were really worried, you wouldn't speak to me like that." "That's your issue, you see. This is how you're always so aloof. That explains why your parents don't show you affection," Mary replied, her eyes as icy as ice. She gave me a very clearly contemptuous look. Even when she exited the room, her attitude was evident for a little while. From the living room, I could hear her happy laughter with our parents after she left. Tears streamed down my face as the anguish overcame me. I should have been accustomed to this by now. I told myself over and over again that I didn't need my parents' blessing, and that I wouldn't be affected by what Mary had said. Still, my feelings deceived me, and I started crying. The report card was crumpled in my fingers from my firm grasp. I made the decision once more to be independent and leave this oppressive familial setting. I concluded that the secret to that escape was to excel in my coursework and develop my skills. That made me even more determined to dive headfirst into my studies. One day, my father surprised me with an announcement while the open breeze blew through the classroom windows. "You won't attend high school, Amy. You're going to start looking for work right away," he said icily. I was speechless and could not disguise my perplexity. "Why would you say anything of that nature?" I inquired, my face expressionless. "It is not required to invest in you anymore. You should use your own money to pay for high school if you choose to go. Should that prove to be unattainable, your only option would be to surrender. I'm still in middle school, though. I don't have many opportunities for work. How am I meant to do this?" My objection was ignored. "Then you have to concede this. Your mother and I have chosen to allocate our financial resources mostly to Mary. We really cannot afford to spend more money on you," he firmly said. "That's not fair," I screamed internally. But my father's decision was final. His abrupt words seemed to drain all the color from the world around me, painting everything in shades of gray. My mother and sister looked at me with unhidden smiles, enjoying my misery. I understand much more now. There were options like finding schools with tuition waivers or scholarships. However, back then, without knowing how to access that information, I was simply devastated by the closure of my path to further education. Since that day, my passion for learning faded quickly. The praises from my homeroom teacher, who had always admired my grades, felt hollow, and the lack of interest in education at home made my chances of advancing to higher education seem even more hopeless. I started the next stage of my life by working at a local factory right after graduation. Since I wasn't old enough to live on my own, I stayed with my family until I turned 19. I worked as hard as I could, and most of my salary went to the household. I saved the little money I kept for myself for the future. Those tough days felt like crawling through an endless tunnel. On my 19th birthday, I finally left home. I wrote a single letter for my family and walked away from the place that was now just a memory. My family's reaction was as if I had never existed, complete silence without a single phone call or letter. At first, living apart from my family caused me heartache, and the loneliness cast a shadow over my days. However, as time passed, the loneliness eased with the business of work. After moving out and starting an independent life, the stress I had felt at home disappeared, and I began to experience a mental spaciousness I had never felt before. This newfound peace of mind reignited my enthusiasm. I regained my passion for learning and decided to start studying again. I began with the basics, reviewing them diligently. The joy of learning filled my heart once more. Soon I started to study high school textbooks and began reading extensively. During my reading journey, I became fascinated by books on law, which sparked a deep interest in the legal profession. Despite only having a junior high education, I learned about the preliminary examination system, which allowed someone like me to take the bar exam. With this new information, my dedication to studying intensified. I used every possible moment to study, even during short breaks at work. I memorized legal terms during lunch, always preparing for the bar exam. The people at my workplace, mostly older than me, saw my earnest efforts and supported me. At the age of 24, I passed the bar exam. After passing the exam, I left my long-term job at the factory and secured a position at a top law firm. After about 5 years of training, I set out on my own and opened my law practice. Now I happily work as a legal consultant for a hospital. Sometimes I wonder what would happen if I told my parents about becoming a lawyer. I think about how they might react and if I could finally meet their expectations. However, I haven't shared anything with them, and deep down, I believe I won't reach out to them. An unexpected reunion with my family came sooner than I thought. One evening, after finishing work, I found a message on my phone from my younger sister, Mary. She was getting married. Mary is getting married, I murmured to myself. My sister, now 29, was engaged to a doctor, and her wedding was next month. They wanted me to attend. Despite the long estrangement from Mary and my parents, I couldn't ignore this significant event, so I replied that I would attend. Mary quickly responded with the exact date and location of the ceremony. The message ended with, "Don't forget the wedding gift," which made me smile. Perhaps Mary was more interested in the gift than in welcoming me. I decided to use the wedding as a chance to reunite with the family and then part ways again. On the day of Mary's wedding, I put on a carefully selected blue dress and headed to the venue after completing the entrance formalities. I took my seat in the family area where my father and mother were already seated. "You have some nerve showing up here. You must be doing well for yourself with the meager earnings from the factory," my father said coldly. "Indeed, you're right. Introducing someone like her as family does not do us any credit as parents," my mother added with disdain. "Mary shouldn't have invited someone like you," my father continued. I told them exactly that, but they insisted on getting the celebration money anyway, my mother said quietly, even though I was right there. They carried on this conversation without any hesitation. This was the reality I faced. I had a faint hope that sharing my side might bridge the gap between us, but it was quickly shattered. Both my father and mother seemed to completely avoid talking to me. In the silence, I glanced around the venue and noticed some familiar faces among the groom's side. Haven't I seen that person somewhere before? I thought to myself, feeling a sense of déjà vu. As I traced my uncertain memory, I looked up the groom's name, and my suspicion turned into conviction. The connection I had anticipated became clear. I couldn't entirely hide my faint surprise. Such a coincidence, almost like a twist of fate, I marveled. However, I decided to keep my emotions in check and spend the day quietly. As the ceremony proceeded, the bride and groom made a glamorous entrance. Guests spoke warm words and gave entertaining performances that softened the atmosphere. As time passed, the banquet gradually shifted to dinner and then to photo sessions. Throughout this time, my parents got up without acknowledging me and moved toward the front where the bride and groom awaited. Mary, as if drawn by a magnet, clung close to the bride and groom, smiling happily in every photograph. Pretending not to be affected by the scene unfolding before me, I focused silently on the meal in front of me. Unexpectedly, my sister Mary approached me. She came closer with a smile, but her eyes had a spark of something more than excitement to see her sister after so many years. "Big sis, it's been such a long time, hasn't it? Are you happy to spend time together like this?" she asked. Slightly, I nodded quietly and said, "Yes." "The banquet food is really wonderful." With a sarcastic smile, Mary continued, "You can't get such luxurious food at the factory you work at, can you? You should be grateful for this opportunity." Something inside me felt like it was being torn apart, but I didn't show it on my face. Mary's words became sharper, tauntingly piercing me. "Oh dear, did I upset you? I'm sorry, but it's natural for you to be envious, isn't it? Your little sister marrying a doctor and all." Mary said, the words "I'm sorry" flippantly, as if they were meaningless. I kept my expression unchanged and quietly waited for my next move. At that moment, Mary whispered in my ear, "Big sis, because I feel sorry for you, I've come up with a great idea." Despite trying to stay calm, I asked with suspicion, "A great idea? What is it?" Mary, looking satisfied, said, "You'll see. Just watch closely." Wearing her elegant wedding dress, Mary gathered everyone's attention. She took a microphone from the staff and suddenly announced loudly to the guests, "Ladies and gentlemen, you may not be aware, but my sister is here. She may not have the highest education or be the youngest, but if there is anyone kind-hearted enough, could you please take her under your wing?" My face turned red. "What are you saying, Mary?" I exclaimed. Mary continued even louder. "Although she doesn't earn much and leads a modest life, is there someone here who can brighten my sister's future?" As everyone focused on me, Mary seemed to enjoy my discomfort with a smug smile. At that moment, a shocking scene unfolded. Mary's rude behavior escalated, and even our normally gentle parents joined in. "Please treat her kindly," my parents added. This was the last straw for me. Rage swirled within me. To ridicule someone so much at a happy event, how far would they go? I couldn't believe it, but now it was time for them to face reality. As the atmosphere shifted and murmurs spread through the venue, Mary, unaware she was the center of attention, cheerfully called out, "Amy, look. There are so many doctors here. It's your chance." I stayed silent but conveyed my strong will through my sober gaze. "This is the end for you." Confused, Mary responded, "Eh?" I continued more calmly, "You'll understand soon just how terrible your actions have been." Just as Mary tried to make an excuse, the groom suddenly raised his voice. "Wait, please. Why are you leaving your seats?" The venue was riveted by his voice. Looking toward the groom, it was clear all his colleagues from work were standing up, heading for the exit. Even as the groom tried to stop them, a dignified man who appeared to be the hospital director spoke to the groom with determination. The recent remarks of the bride were so unpleasant that I'm in disbelief. "I apologize, but we can no longer stay here. We will take our leave now," the hospital director said. The groom hurried to stop him, offering to take responsibility for Mary's words and actions. "Please wait. I admit her words were inappropriate. I'll speak to her directly and ensure she changes her behavior." However, the hospital director pointed out the gravity of the issue and revealed something the groom didn't know. The problem isn't just that. Do you not know what kind of person her sister is? The groom, confused, admitted, "No, I only met her sister for the first time today. All I've heard is that she worked in a factory after graduating from middle school." The hospital director couldn't hide his irritation. "Don't be ridiculous. Her sister is a respected lawyer and serves as the legal advisor to our hospital." The groom was shocked to learn this, indicating he had no idea I was the hospital's legal advisor. Mary and my parents were also speechless. I was the legal advisor of the hospital where Mary's fiancé worked. I had seen him several times at hospital events, which is why he looked familiar. The other guests probably realized this too. Mary's inappropriate comments only made things worse, and that's why the hospital director was so outraged. Although the groom himself had no direct relation to me, the hospital director and staff valued the legal advisor highly. The groom's face turned red, and he stepped toward Mary, raising his voice. "What on earth is this? Because of your carelessness, my reputation is now tarnished." Mary stumbled over her words, then defended herself like a bewildered child. It's not like that. I truly had no idea my sister was in such a prestigious position. Growing more indignant, the groom continued to scold Mary. Ignorance is no excuse. How can you speak so lightly and disrespectfully of your own sister? Your behavior is disgraceful. You've truly lost sight of what's valuable. Mary, desperately trying to explain, pleaded, "Wait a minute. Listen. I have a good reason." However, the groom, without giving her a chance to explain, declared decisively, "The marriage is off. I have no interest in hearing your excuses. Our engagement ends here." Shocked by his words, Mary collapsed on the spot, her complexion turning deathly pale. In a fit of anger, the groom stormed out of the wedding hall along with the other guests. As I was about to leave, I heard a desperate cry from my sister behind me. "Please help me, Amy." Without being swayed by her cries, I confronted her with a stern tone. "Assist you? Why ought I to? You are in this circumstance as a result of your own deeds. It's pitiful to make jokes about other people and then act like the victim." Mary begged, bewildered and nervous. "Why are you speaking so harshly?" Had I been aware of your legal accomplishments? I answered, quietly but firmly. Why should I have to tell someone who has never been in touch with me about my line of work? Actually, after this wedding, I was going to break up with you. But after witnessing your sad demise, I'm kind of relieved. That your engagement to a doctor has been canceled must disappoint you. You'd best put in a lot of effort to locate your next possibility. I exited the place with dignity after saying these things. I could hear my parents and other visitors criticizing remarks from a distance. Everything went according to plan, and Mary's marriage ended. For the first time, Mary faced the wrath of my parents, who had assumed that her marriage to a doctor would guarantee them a stable future. Mary, unable to bear their rage, begged for assistance, but I disregarded her. "Please." Despite my best efforts, I never returned her calls and severed all communication with the family. I'd heard that Mary had abandoned her work and was living alone at home, alienated from our parents, and without a job. Personally, I am content with my job and my personal life, leading a quiet existence free from major issues. Despite the difficult times I've had with my family, I am fortunate to have many individuals in my everyday and professional life that support me. This favorable atmosphere is a result of my years of diligent work and effort rather than happenstance. I have experienced difficult obstacles in the past, but rising beyond them has shaped who I am now. I can now appreciate my previous challenges when I reflect on them. I intend to continue leading a happy life at my own speed, making sensible objectives, and minimizing stress.